With me now, One America News Chief White House Correspondent Trey Yingst. Trey, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
All right, Trey, this is a pretty big story, pretty interesting story. Let's get right to this question of the day. I mean, this woman, Reality Lee Winner, she was busted last night. She's the first leaker, actually, of the leaker of classified information, I should say, to be caught and arrested, even though we've been talking about this story for weeks. Trey, is this woman going to be prosecuted under the full extent of the law for her crime?
I believe that she is. We have seen bipartisan support on this issue. Today, Senator Tim Kaine, who we know that ran for vice president under Hillary Clinton's ticket, said that she should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Obviously, we have seen other Republicans on the Hill today echoing Kaine's comments about the need to prosecute people who leak classified information. In the case of Reality Lee Winner, she's actually going to be facing up to 10 years in federal prison for leaking this information to The Intercept. The big issue that many lawmakers and the Trump administration has with this classified information that was leaked to the press is that it could undermine the national security interests of the American people. And that's something that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly, want to pay attention to.
Listen, I mean, that's an important thing. That's why she should be prosecuted. This is not just some disgruntled employee trying to embarrass her employer. Or perhaps that was her motivation, but it doesn't matter at this point. Leaking this type of classified information, that information then gets back into the hands of our enemies as well. This isn't just something, you know, to embarrass the president. People's lives are at risk here. And I guess I don't quite understand the Democrats in general. Good to hear that Tim Kaine disavowed this, but I don't quite understand why more Democrats don't disavow the leaking of classified information, even when it's politically expedient for them, because people's lives are at risk.
I think it's something that moving forward, we are going to be having more conversations about it here in the nation's capital, about what sort of punishment should leakers get whenever they're dealing and handling classified information to different members of the media. Because we're not talking about small information or what time an event happened or things like that. We are talking about our country's greatest secrets, information that we are in the process of gathering to get a better picture and give the American people facts about what unfolded during the 2016 elections. And right now, the American people have a lot of questions and not so many answers. So all of the information that we do have as a country is being closely guarded within the intelligence agencies. And quite frankly, when we see leaks like this, there are people all over the country that are very upset and worried that this could ultimately hurt the American citizens.
And rightly so, rightly so. These documents show the level to which the Russian agents were able to penetrate or infiltrate our voting systems, and the fact that we now release that information, the Russians know that we know, well, they're just going to change their tactics then, which puts us at risk again. But I guess speaking of this whole investigation, Trey, I want to ask you about this because this is coming up on Capitol Hill on Thursday. Former FBI Director James Comey is set to testify in front of Congress. I mean, what do you hear? What if he testifies that the president did tell him, that President Trump did tell him to stop investigating Michael Flynn?
That's the big question that everyone is going to be paying attention to on Thursday morning when the former FBI Director James Comey does testify. The president made clear in an interview with a cable news network just last month that he asked the FBI Director at the time, James Comey, if he was under investigation, asking for himself. But the big question is, did he ask the former FBI Director, James Comey, to stop any sort of investigations into the former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn? We do not have an answer to that question. And I think what the Senate Intelligence Committee is looking to do on Thursday is gather all of the facts to this story. There's a lot of conversations here in Washington about collusion and impeachment and all these words that are being thrown out. But right now, there are far more questions than there are answers to many of these words that are being thrown out.
Right, and Trey, call me a cynic here, but I don't really think that this testimony or this hearing is actually going to clear up anything. I don't think we're going to get a lot of answers. We're certainly going to get answers from the mouth of Comey, but what happens when or if former FBI Director James Comey gives an answer that conflicts with President Trump's answer. What if Comey testifies that, yes, President Trump tried to obstruct justice, or yes, I was investigating him, and President Trump says the reverse, that no, James Comey told me I wasn't under investigation, and no, I didn't obstruct justice. I mean, it's just going to be another round of political infighting, because Republicans are going to believe President Trump, and Democrats are going to believe James Comey, unless there's some other form of evidence presented. And to my knowledge, that's not the plan.
That's exactly right, Liz. I mean, what we are looking at is a game of cat and mouse here in Washington. And moving forward, I think that's why the Department of Justice made the decision to appoint Robert Mueller to actually look into this as a special prosecutor, because the big question here is whether or not there was any sort of Russian interference in the election, and whether or not the president asked his former FBI director, James Comey, to drop any sort of investigation into Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor. We do not have answers to either of those questions, and the big issue with many of these congressional hearings is you see a lot of people head to the Hill. They lay out a number of facts. They lay out what they believe to be true to the best of their memory. Sometimes they have to go back to Capitol Hill and amend their comments. But the bottom line is all of that information is just really filed away as evidence. There are going to be no conclusions. Those lawmakers on Capitol Hill are not a jury. They can make no legal bounds to actually make a decision on what should happen, if anything, or if any sort of conclusion. They're gathering information, but ultimately the final decision and really the facts for the American people are going to come from Robert Mueller, the man who was appointed by the Department of Justice.
Right, and let's remember, contrary to what the Democrats have been telling us and what they will probably continue to tell us, there has been no evidence. There is no evidence. There is no proof. There's no proof of collusion. There's no proof of collusion by Donald Trump with the Russians, collusion between Trump associates and the Russians. There's no proof. There's no proof that Donald Trump tried to obstruct justice. Absolutely no proof. And even Democratic Senator Warner said as much earlier.